Hazbin Hotel is a great show which I absolutely love, but it has problems, and a lot of them too. I have already discussed everything about the pacing issues in a previous video, but I have found a lot of other gripes with the show on rewatch. And with season 2 already starting to record lines, I hope it's not too late for them to make the necessary changes and respond to criticism, but either way, I just wanted to share some things that could make the show better. On rewatch, now that the whole show is out, we have some dropped storylines which were hyped up in the individual episodes but never fully executed on, which leaves certain moments feeling disappointing. In my previous video about the pacing, we discussed how while we didn't get the extermination in episode 1, it would be fine because we would see it in the last episode. But we never really saw the extermination in the finale. We know that some cannibals died, but we never see that, and no one in Pentagram City died either. I know the attack was focused on the Hazbin Hotel, but it means that as an audience, we never really get to see how brutal an extermination really is throughout the show. Another example would be episode 3. The whole point of the song Respectless, which is one of my favorites, is that the V's have a plan to kill the angels and they want to get the help from the other overlords, yet when extermination day comes, they're just getting hard watching the fight happen, doing nothing. And yet in the finale song, the V's are singing about how they're going to take their power now, even though they did nothing that would cause this power shift, and with Charlie being the one actually fighting and killing them, and even getting people into heaven and beating the angels, if anyone is going to get more power after the extermination, it's going to be her. There are so many other examples of loose threads, which makes rewatching the show almost painful at points. And this isn't a problem you can blame on the cramming of the season. It's just poor writing which needs to be fixed, which I'm so sad about because these are really plot lines which I really want to see executed to their fullest. Another remedy to a previous opinion I have is to do with the characters of the show. I stand by my belief on the whole that Hazbin Hotel has great characters. Not perfect, but very enjoyable throughout the show. That being said, the characters just aren't consistent. My main example would be the opening scene of episode 7 where Charlie makes a deal with Alistair because the characterization of both characters is so flawed. My first thing is, Charlie swears at Alistair a bunch in this scene, which is something which could have had a big impact and been really cool if Charlie hadn't been swearing in the previous episodes all the time. I've said this a lot. I'm fine with characters swearing in this show, but if this scene was the first time Charlie had swore in the whole show, the impact would have been so much bigger. It would have shown us how tired Charlie is, how she's basically given up from trying redemption, how she's become apathetic. But that isn't my biggest gripe in relation to this scene at all. I feel like the scene could have been slotted into episode 1 or 2 though, based on the story, and 2 based on the characters. In episode 5, Charlie says how much Alistair cares for her, and here she is saying that Alistair doesn't care about anyone at the hotel. This one scene contradicts all of episode 5 and 6, which is so annoying because I think those are the 2 best executed episodes of the show, and this is the best scene from episode 7. And the kinder Alistair we see throughout episode 2 to 6 is just gone in this scene where he's kicking his legs up and just subtly being super creepy in the background. People have talked a lot about how Hazbin Hotel creates great scenes that stand alone but don't work together. This is a great example. I refuse to believe that in-universe we wouldn't have a scene like this in episode 7 before we get an episode like Deadbeat Dad. It just doesn't make sense that this scene is happening after Deadbeat Dad, and it would make sense that Alistair gets kinder later because he gets the deal, he gets what he wants. And of course, because the deal is being made with How to Kill Exorcist, the scene couldn't take place in episode 2. But in hindsight, I think a lot of moments need to be restructured in order for the show to work better, and so we have a lot more linear character development instead of it being super jagged and going this way and then that way, all over the place and no real through line for some of them. And even with the limited time we had in the 8 episodes, I think there are bits which could be cut. I began to love Camilla Carmine and Respectless and the whole Overlord part of episode 3. But looking back, the episode is such a waste of time. I love the episode so much, and it might be the best out of the first 3 episodes, but it feels so separate from every other episode on the show, and that is very sad to see with the limited time that we have. But to speak a bit more on characters, I have one more thing to say about Alistair, which really worries me. Throughout the show, we get hints of, oh, Alistair is evil, he's doing evil things, he's gonna do evil things, but we never see that, even though there are so many opportunities. A great example is the fight scene in episode 5. He says he's gonna remind everyone of how strong he is, and then he just tears people apart, but it feels really underwhelming as a scene, especially because earlier in the episode, we learn a bit of his backstory, and then we have him nearly kill Husk when he's killing loan sharks. It's just anticlimactic for what is supposed to be the big return of the radio demon. And the other thing with this is I just don't think Alistair was actually going to do anything evil in the end, and it's going to be disappointing, almost like a toffee all over again. In this episode, we hear that when people mess with Alistair, that the radio program would get more screams, and I thought that as the fight began, we would hear those screams of the new loan sharks, but surprisingly, we didn't hear them at all. I wish we could get a chance to really dive into Alistair's radio programs. I recently had an idea that maybe we could listen to a broadcast from Alistair during the credits of each episode. There is so much they can do, and it could subtly inform us about his character, especially in the episodes where he's not there, still telling us a bit about him, because he's the most interesting part of the show. Maybe in episode 1, Alistair's releasing some hit piece on TV, which ties into his hatred of TV, which was established in the episode, but the rivalry with Vox from episode 2. Episode 5 could be the screams of the loan sharks in episode 4 or 6, since Alistair never really appears in one of those. It could be some of Alistair's favorite music instead, and in episode 8, with the ominous Alistair tease in the song, it could just be white noise to just kind of get you scared, and after the little thing, it would also tie in. While I would love to get some more Vox broadcast or 666 News in a similar format, that would need to be animated, which would cost a lot of extra money, and compared to Alistair, where it would just be replacing outro music. I have so much more I could say about end credits in general and how shows can make them more interesting, though I doubt anyone will watch a video on that, so we'll just move on. And finally, Hazbin deserves a better release schedule. The success of the show proves that a season 2 could still be super popular even though it was spaced out, and it would create a much longer lasting lifespan for the show. Each episode had so much to be covered, and a lot of cool moments that got forgotten or overshadowed by the multiple episodes released each week. With this video, my intention isn't to hate on the show. I love Hazbin, and I want it to achieve its full potential. But these are just some of the flaws I've noticed that, if rectified, could make the show just about perfect. But to talk a bit more about the characters it has been, like I said, I have a whole video on that, which you can check out here.